Welcome into our Big Ten Network studios. I'm Kara Lentz here with this week's Big Ten Wrestling Report. A lot of anticipation and excitement surrounding this time of the year. The Big Ten Wrestling Championships this weekend, March 9th and March 10th at the University of Illinois. Catch all of Saturday's sessions on btn.com, including Sunday's morning sessions. You can also catch the third place matches on Sunday afternoon at 2:30 p.m. while you can see the championships Sunday afternoon, 2:30 on BTN. That coverage is live with Jim Gibbons and Tim Johnson on the call. Big Ten Network's wrestling analyst Jim Gibbons is surviving the winter storm that is sweeping across much of the Midwest. He joins us now on the phone. Jim, the pre-seeds were released earlier this week, and how this relates to the team and the race during this tournament championships. But just talk about some of the #1 seeds, and really no surprise, especially at 125 with Matt McDonough.
Well, you take a look at the pre-seeds, Kara, they're out, and Penn State has 3 #1 seeds. The Hawks have 3, and Ohio State in there with the Stever brothers, and with 2 #1 seeds, in Minnesota with the returning national champion Tony Nelson, and Michigan even has one with Eric Grajales. But you know, starting at 25, you've got 3 of the best wrestlers in the country. I mean, you talk about McDonough, Megaludis, Jesse Delgado. All 3 of those guys are going to be ranked in the top 4. Of course, McDonough, the returning national champion. But, you know, McDonough has not been hot here lately and dropping a couple matches. So this is going to be an interesting match, and I think it's going to play a lot into the team race. Moving on to 33, I mean, that looks to me like a 2-person race, a collision course between the top 2 seeds. The only person I think that can probably be a spoiler in that case is Tyler Graff, who's very talented and All-American from Wisconsin. But it looks like Logan Stever, the returning national champion, and Tony Ramos on a collision course, and that's going to be a fun weight to watch. And as you move up to 41, where Hunter Stever's having a great season so far this year, and Nick Dardanes from Minnesota and Mark Ballweg are going to probably have the rubber match, and unless some of the other lower-seeded wrestlers can have a say in that, which is totally possible in these wide-open weight classes. But should be interesting.
Well, then you go on to 149, and this weight class could perhaps have the greatest effect on the team race overall in general. Grajales is ranked #1 from Michigan. When you look at the 149 bout, or that weight class, what do you see? What do you expect? What can you give us more detail about that?
Well, I think it's an interesting weight class here because it truly is wide open here. Iowa has not had a strong contender here. Penn State's Andrew Alton could be the wild card in this thing. Is that he's ranked #6, but Eric Grajales has had a solid season in last year's NCAA runner-up. You know, this had to be a hard weight class to seed, and it'll be interesting to see how this weight class finishes up. And I think it'll have a lot to play with who wins the team race.
And moving on to the rest of the weight classes, 157, Derek St. John, who's been having a solid year from Iowa. When you go from 157 to 165, what can you tell us about those?
Well, Derek St. John having a great season. Jason Welch also, don't count him out here. Not many losses on the season at all here. I think 1, and then Dylan Alton, Penn State, that they're going to have upside with their team race. But a sleeper in there is Taylor Walsh and James Green, and those are 2 very talented wrestlers. James Green was ahead of Derek St. John last year at the Big Ten Championships and got beat, and it started a tailspin for him, and Derek St. John was on his way to end up being an NCAA runner-up. But David Taylor, of course, the standout at 165, last year's Hodge Trophy winner at 65. You know, it's David Taylor and the rest of the field here, and would not be surprised if he walked away with an Outstanding Wrestler award.
And also talking with you earlier in the week, Jim, 174 is perhaps the deepest weight class that we're going to see. 12 wrestlers right now with those pre-seeds. Robert Kokash has been a strong wrestler throughout this season. When you look at 174, give us something that we can watch for.
Well, Logan Storley's got to hold seed for his team to have a chance to win. Mike Evans, of course, has been really solid all the way through. He's beaten Kokash earlier. But, you know, this weight class, Kara's probably got 8 guys that could probably make their way into the semifinals of the national tournament. Matt Brown, Nick Heflin from Ohio State, Matt Brown from Penn State, Jordan Blanton, a returning All-American, Lee Munster, last year's Midlands champion. Gosh, you put him at #7, he catches Mike Evans, the #2 seed, in the quarterfinals. So great bouts of that 174-pound weight class. Again, one of the scramble there will probably help decide the team race. And then you move on to 84, where Ed Ruth, I mean, he's been the man, returning national champion. 2 returning Big Ten champions in this weight class, Kevin Steinhaus was the 84-pound champion last year. Of course, you got Josh Enan from Nebraska. A lot of Nebraska guys are pretty competitive here, but it's going to take a lot for them to get into the finals. So, but Ed Ruth and Steinhaus, two returning Big Ten champions in this weight class. And then you move up to 97, where Quentin Wright, returning national champion and Big Ten champion, and going against, I think, that field there from 2 on down to 7, could be a really surprise who makes it to the finals here on the other side of that bracket. A lot of parity on that. And you've got last year's Big Ten champion Mario Gonzalez from Illinois, who's also a factor in that weight class. And last year's Big Ten champions probably wants to have a say in this, particularly at home at Champaign.
All right, Jim, you look at the team race, the team title race in this tournament. 3 Big Ten teams are ranked in the top 4 nationally speaking. It's been quite a competitive year for the Big Ten. Iowa, Minnesota, and Penn State. What will allow a path to victory for some of those schools to be crowned the 2013 Big Ten champion?
Well, I think that obviously they've got to hold seed. For example, at heavyweight with Tony Nelson at Minnesota, he's got to go ahead and hold serve there. And that's another balanced weight class here when you get past the first 2 couple guys here. But to build a path to victory, it's not necessarily it's the top guys holding their seeds. I'm talking about the guys who are seeded 1, 2, and 3. You expect that if you're going to have a good tournament. But it's the guys like Ballwig from Iowa, Moore from Iowa at 165. It's Lofthouse at 84. It's Burak at 97. If those guys can go ahead and move up from that 4 to 6 range and maybe get to the finals, maybe wrestle for 3rd place. For Penn State, that scenario is. It's about the Altons. Can they improve from the 3 and 6 seeds where they are right now? And Jordan Conaway, who's been up and down, but they had a good season to this point for the Lions. If they can go ahead and move up the ladder, that helps Penn State's chances with 3 number 1 seeds for both Iowa and Penn State. They're really counting on that next layer of guy to go ahead and step up. And for Minnesota, they've got 1 number 1 seed in Tony Nelson at heavyweight. Then it's up to the Dardanes brothers. It's up to Schiller to hold that number 2 seed here at 97 in a very balanced weight class. And a guy like Jan here, that 165 pounds. I mean, senior, you're expecting your seniors to go ahead and step up and have a good tournament season. So for all 3 of these teams, Iowa, Minnesota, Penn State, it's about stepping up at the next echelon here and making themselves competitive in this tournament and giving themselves really what they want is a good seed going to that national tournament and a conference championship.
Well, the conference championship sure be an exciting one to watch this weekend. Jim, I hope you're staying warm and safe in this winter storm. Thank you so much for the time. Well,
I'll tell you what, it's going to be a great tournament in Champaign, Illinois. I'm really looking forward to it. Get there early. I tell you what, Kara, the semifinals of the Big Tens are like watching the quarterfinals of the NCAA tournament. It's that competitive.
Well, we're looking forward to it. Jim Gibbons joins Tim Johnson. All of that coverage on BTN.com and BTN on March 9th and March 10th. That's going to do it for this week's Wrestling Report. We will certainly see you next week with all of the weekend's highlights, interviews, and analysis from the championships.